The investigation is being run by the state police, and I haven't gotten any feedback from them as to a motive for this.
He didn't own a gun, right?
He didn't own any weapons.
I mean, do you have any idea why he would allegedly shoot a trooper?
Remembering a fallen trooper. This is 24-Hour News 8.
Right now at 6 o'clock, there are still questions about why a young man and his pregnant wife would have allegedly turned a gun on a state trooper during what appeared to be a normal traffic stop.
Our team is working this story for you tonight. You will hear from the father of one of the suspects. He's a retired cop, and he's still trying to figure out why his son might have done this. We also tracked down the owner of a vehicle allegedly stolen last night by the suspects. He saw the two just moments after the shooting. And we're hearing from a friend of Trooper Paul Butterfield who was with him last night during his final moments.
This all started nearly 24 hours ago when Trooper Paul Butterfield pulled over a pickup truck northeast of Ludington. During the stop, he was shot in the head. Police rushed to the scene trying to track down the suspects. 2 hours later, the suspects, a husband and wife, were arrested at a gas station 20 miles away.
Our team coverage begins tonight with 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker, who is just learning some new information about the alleged gunman. Ken?
Yeah, Brian and Sue, the suspect's father does not want to believe that his son could have done this, but he wants the trooper's family to know that he is hurting for them.
Well, our family and our whole family, our hearts and our prayers go out to the trooper, his family, and all the other troopers. I'm at a loss for words.
Eric Nice's father says he can't understand what happened, that he wants a chance to talk to his son, who's only 19.
As a father, there's all kind of questions, and I think in the next couple of days, most of them will be answered. But yes, it's possible something unforeseen could have happened. Eric was at the scene, yes, but whether he pulled the trigger or not, I can't say.
But his son was at Munson Medical Center in Traverse City with a bullet wound to the knee from a shootout with police.
I haven't talked to my son, and I understand they won't let me, but I'd like him to answer a few of my questions, that's all.
He says his son borrowed his pickup truck yesterday and was headed to Ludington with his wife for a doctor's appointment. That, he says, is when the troopers stopped him. He wonders if it was because the truck had a loud muffler. He says he has no idea why his son would have shot at the trooper. Says he didn't even know that his son had a gun. The suspect's father says he's a former police officer in Calumet City and that his son had run-ins with the law. Your son would have respect for police, right? I mean, as someone who grew up...
You'd think so, yes. But this is not a surprise, this is a shock.
Nyes was only 14 when he was charged with home invasion. Then it was impaired driving last fall. Earlier this year, he was busted for carrying a switchblade that, according to state police, got him a year in jail. Then he got 93 days for a domestic violence. Nyes and his wife Sarah married about 1.5 years ago, and his father says that she was 6 months pregnant.
This is the worst day of my life.
Yeah. Now, today we also learned that the suspect's uncle took out a personal protection order against him, saying that he had assaulted him and had access to weapons. Also, we just spoke with the father again by phone, who confirmed that a .357 Magnum had been taken from his home sometime over the last year. Says he did not know it was missing until after this incident. He says police will not tell him if it was the gun that was used in this crime. Live in Ludington, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
It all ended at this Manistee County gas station where Eric Nyes was shot and his wife was arrested. But tonight we're piecing together what happened in the moments before and after Trooper Butterfield was gunned down on a rural road miles away. 24-Hour News 8's Leon Hendricks is live in Ludington tonight, laying out the timeline and talking with the man who saw the suspects moments after the shooting. Leon?
That's right. He has a lot to say. We'll get to him in just a moment. We want to tell you why we're here at the Mason County Courthouse. That's because this is the next step in the process for these suspects. They will be brought here to face those charges, though the prosecutor still working to decide what those charges will be. Still waiting for some official reports from the police. Still lots of questions, though, as to what really happened and why. For this man, it was a bizarre turn of events, from selling his car to ending up as part of a state police trooper's murder investigation. Timothy Schultz is one of the only known people to have had contact with the suspects after police claim one of them shot Trooper Paul Butterfield to death.
I'm thankful for, that there wasn't no conflict or anything here.
Here's how yesterday's tragic events played out as we understand them. At around 6:20, Trooper Butterfield stopped the suspect's 1988 pickup here. It's not clear why, but ultimately police say someone in that truck shot and fatally wounded the trooper. He laid along the highway for some 4 minutes until a driver saw him there. The Mason County Sheriff among those first on the scene.
I knew it was bad because the sergeant and I had made eye contact, and I knew by looking at this seasoned veteran that this wasn't good.
That's when the suspects traveled here to steal their next getaway car, a car that was for sale. Schultz tells us that suspects Eric Nice and his wife Sarah had been there earlier in the day to test drive that car. They planned to buy it. When they showed up the second time after the shooting, Schultz says they asked to look at the car again. Still nothing out of sorts.
He seemed all right. He didn't seem like he wasn't in a panic.
Then he says they unexpectedly drove off. Schultz says he thought it was weird but did not find it suspicious. Now he's thankful he didn't confront the pair. He later called police after learning that the trooper was shot, putting authorities hot on the trail of their suspects, finally arresting them here at a gas station miles away and in another county. Suspect Eric Nice was shot in the process. A few hours later, Trooper Butterfield was declared dead, and now it's the process of grieving and healing. Flowers placed on the trooper's cars at the Hart Post where Butterfield worked out of. Some more public shows of support, others a small flower arrangement here, more private, assuring those who remain to protect us all.
Goodness will prevail out of this.
So as far as what the next step will look like, there is some confusion, a couple of caveats because of the situation surrounding this case. One, the suspect, the male suspect, we know that he is still in the hospital, so not sure if he'll be able to actually make a court appearance here, though we have heard of arraignments actually happening at the hospital bed. The other, the investigation is still being compiled. The prosecutor's got to look through a lot of paperwork before deciding what charges he'll officially file. Reporting live in Mason County, Leon Hendricks, 24-Hour News 8.
We're also learning that several officers wound up on the road alongside Trooper Butterfield just moments after a driver found him down.
Those officers were there as the trooper fought for his life for more than an hour as emergency crews tried to keep him alive.
24-Hour News 8's Marley Ginter joins us now with how one of them sat by his side praying.
Yes, he did. Brian and Sue, Mason County Sheriff Kim Cole was with Trooper Butterfield moments after he'd been shot. In fact, he was there right when the ambulance was getting there, saw his friend, and started hanging on to hope.
I prayed for the best, but I knew that it was a serious injury.
Mason County Sheriff Kim Cole spoke with a steady voice and a broken heart. He sat last night not just with a colleague, but a close friend, as paramedics tried to save Trooper Butterfield's life.
I stayed there with him as long as I could, and then when AeroMed touched down, I stepped aside and let them get going with him.
Butterfield joined MSP in 1999. He'd served at the Manistee Post, but had been working out of the Hart Post for the past 2 years.
You know, Paul took every call that I went with him on as a personal call. It wasn't like it was his job.
But there was much more than the uniform. The 43-year-old had recently gotten engaged. Friends tell us he loved his pets, had a great sense of humor, known to them as Butterbean. He still kept in touch with his high school track coach at Bridgeport, a school near Saginaw where we're told he still holds multiple records.
You don't get Paul Butterfields very often as runners for your team. He just loved to run, and he was really good at it.
He was there when my kids graduated and was at my house for the open houses when my kids graduated, and you know, it's tough.
A hard day for so many. Trooper Butterfield had a family history dedicated to protecting the community. His father also served as a state trooper. Brian.
Thank you, Marley. Funeral plans are still being arranged for Trooper Butterfield. However, we are learning of a candlelight vigil happening Saturday night. That'll be held at Waterfront Park in Ludington starting at 7.
Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll take a closer look at just how dangerous traffic stops are for police officers every time they pull a car over. We have multiple crews continuing to push for answers on this story, and we'll bring you the very latest tonight at 10 o'clock on WXSP and 11 o'clock on Wood TV 8.
The other big story tonight, we're monitoring several major developments now in the crisis in Syria as we get ready for the president's address to the nation tonight.
Secretary of State John Kerry plans to meet with the Russian foreign minister on Thursday to discuss options going forward. Russia says that the U.S. should stop threatening to strike because Syria is considering turning over any chemical weapons to international control.
And it's amidst those new developments that the president will address the country tonight. Political reporter Rick Albin here now. And Rick, I think a lot of us are wondering, what is the president expected to say? What strategy will he take tonight?
I bet there are a lot of speechwriters in the White House that are wondering what the president's going to say, because this day has meant that speech has been rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. It's a new narrative from 24 hours ago. As you say, this almost sideways diplomacy in which Syria would give up chemical weapons that they didn't even admit to having a few days ago has changed the narrative for the president. But will he still ask Congress to approve some type of military action? Will he say it is the threat of that military action that has brought Syria to the point where they're willing to negotiate? And if he does that somehow mess up what will be very, very delicate negotiations if in fact those chemical weapons are to be turned over? And of course, the president remains skeptical about just exactly how that would happen, who would oversee it. There are more questions tonight, but there is also a path for the president, at least for now, maybe to buy a little time. We'll see what he says in about 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. Rick, thank you.
All right, Ricky, thank you. You can watch the president's address live at 9 o'clock right here on Wood TV 8. And Rick will be with us tonight for a recap of all the big moments. That'll be at 10 on WXSP and at 11 on Wood TV 8.
New at 6 o'clock tonight, reported video from a viewer of a wild apartment fire in Carson City. You can see this fire was really going at one point this afternoon. At last check, dispatchers say no one was hurt and no one was trapped. This all happened around 3 o'clock at the Linden Apartments in Carson City, not far from the high school.
Still ahead, a deadly pileup in a construction zone in Kent County. Multiple vehicles involved, and we'll have more on what police think led up to this horrible crash right after the break.
We tied a record today that stood for almost 80 years, 94 degrees, the official high in Grand Rapids that ties the record set back in 1931. Currently, we sit at 91 with a little bit of relief on the lakeshore. One more hot and muggy day before cooler air arrives in West Michigan.
Two Traverse City men are dead after a multi-car pileup on US 131 just after 8 o'clock this morning. 49-year-old John Pomeroy and 30-year-old William Coaches were in the same car when it was rear-ended.
24-hour News 8 Steve Kelso's in studio control with what we found out about this one, Steve.
Yeah, good evening. Michigan State Police are saying speed and construction are both factors in this accident. They say this pickup truck had been seen by witnesses traveling at a high rate of speed. Police say no one ever saw the truck's driver hit the brakes as he made his way southbound near Post Drive. That's where police say he smashed into 7 cars that were stopped on the interstate. The interstate had come to a standstill because of construction on 131 near Ann Street, almost 7 miles south. This morning was the first day that one lane was closed southbound during rush hour for an MDOT project. MDOT says a portable sign at West River began warning motorists of the construction last week. This morning, other alerts went out to drivers.
And this morning at 2 o'clock, the big electronic sign at West River Drive stated left lane closed at Ann Street. And then 6:30 this morning, it started to back up. So the big electronic sign by 10 mile, 11 mile area, that was changed to say left lane closed up ahead.
MDOT says the southbound lane closures will continue until September 25th. Several people, including the 57-year-old Sparta man driving that truck, were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. So far, no tickets have been issued.
All right, thank you, Steve. It is hot again tonight, but cooler weather is on the way. Your 8-day forecast right after this break.
Watching out for you. This is Storm Team 8.
The scorching September heat continues this evening. You can see the numbers behind me. We're still in the 80s and low 90s across much of West Michigan. You have to head to the lakeshore to cool off into the 70s, and a live view from downtown Grand Rapids. Our Amway Grand Plaza Skycam, where the hustle and bustle of Art Prize is just a little over a week away. We're quiet right now. Everybody apparently seeking the shelter of air conditioning. There's a cold front off to our west, and I'll show you that on Storm Track Live in a second, but we have to talk about the heat first. This morning's lows, 77 in Grand Rapids. If we can go between now and midnight without cooling lower than 77, which I believe we will, that will break the record for the warmest low temperature in September weather history for Grand Rapids. Quite remarkable. And then this afternoon we tied that record from 1931, but we now sit at 91, down from our record tying high of 94 in Grand Rapids. You can see the cooler weather here along the lakeshore. Temperatures in the mid 70s in places like Holland at the State Park there on the lakeshore. Dew points in the 60s. That's a little more comfortable than yesterday, but still a bit on the sticky side. The cold front looms off to our north and west. Temperatures across the upper peninsula all the way into Minnesota in the 60s and 70s, and this cooler air arrives pretty abruptly here, but not until tomorrow evening. Between now and then, a lot of warmth. You can see the showers and storms out ahead of that cold front. Nothing significant for us tonight, but you can notice that near Green Bay into central Wisconsin, a few showers and thunderstorms have popped up. Pretty weak stuff, and this is headed due east. We'll see this to places like Manistee and Mason County by about 9:30. I suspect there's a possibility that a few more showers fire up south of this. That means areas north of I-96 between Big Rapids but north of Grand Rapids could see a shower or thunderstorm this evening, but I'm not expecting anything very serious to pop up. Here's our 8-day forecast now. We're forecasting a high of 87 tomorrow. Keep in mind, showers, thunderstorms as that cold front approaches. Tomorrow night, that's when the cool air really arrives. We start to dry out, less humid weather on the way, 63 tomorrow night, 77, much more comfortable for Thursday. And then look at the temperatures over the weekend, mid-60s for Friday and Saturday. We'll be right back.
West Michigan is mourning the loss of a state police trooper shot and killed during a traffic stop.
It is a scene that happens far too often across the nation. Target 8 investigator Henry Erb here now to break down just how dangerous traffic stops can be.
Yeah, according to the FBI, traffic stops kill police officers across the country every year. They are one of the top 3 dangers.
There is no such thing as a routine traffic stop. As police, we are taught that every stop has the potential to turn in an instant.
This U.S. Department of Justice-sponsored video featuring the Chicago Police Department brings home the danger. Stopping cars in the street is one of the riskiest things police officers do. They have no way of knowing what's going on inside the car they're stopping.
I've seen officers have been pulled into vehicles, offenders or subjects have grabbed at the officer's weapon.
We wanted to know the facts behind the danger, so I checked FBI statistics today. Traffic stops and pursuits account for about 18% of police officer murders across the country. Last year, 8 police officers were killed by the people they were stopping or chasing. That's better than the previous year when 11 officers were murdered. In fact, 2012 compared to the previous year was safer in general for police officers. The number of officers murdered in the line of duty dropped from 72 to 47. Another 45 died accidentally, half in car crashes. Still, traffic stops remain one of the things police officers worry about.
Anytime you pull over a vehicle for a traffic violation or some other citation that's to be given to the vehicle, you always want to make sure that your life is safe and the safety of the driver as well.
The FBI says traffic stops and pursuits also account for 10% of non-fatal assaults on police officers.
Henry, thank you. Stay with us. 24-Hour News 8 will return right after this break.
It's a great tradition, one the Red Wings carried on today. Before they head north for training camp, they barnstorm the state, reach out to fans. Wings players visited hospitals like Bronson's Children's Hospital in Kalamazoo. You see that video right there with Justin Abdulkader. They also made stops at the Air Force bases, the Coast Guard station in Grand Haven, and some schools across the state. Today they were ambassadors of the game. On Thursday, they opened camp in Traverse City. Get ready for the new season.
You realize, how important the preseason games are and the training camp is. We're coming from a lockout season where you kind of just get thrown into the year, and
For me, I didn't play anywhere during the lockout, so it's going to be nice to get a training camp, kind of ease into things, and get back to work.
Well, this could go down as one of the costliest blocks ever thrown. The NFL is digging deep into the wallet of Ndamukong Suh for his latest on-field infraction. Suh has been fined $100,000 for the chop block he threw on Minnesota offensive lineman John Sullivan on Sunday. He will not be suspended. The block cost the Lions a touchdown. This is the largest fine yet for Suh, fined over $30,000 for kicking Texans QB Matt Schaub last year and suspended 2 games for that stomping incident on a Packer player in 2011. College football, from the iron to the fire. Life doesn't get any easier for P.J. Fleck and the Western Michigan Broncos. Fresh off the loss at home to Nicholls State, Broncos head to Northwestern this weekend, where they'll face a Wildcat team that's averaging 46 points per game in the first 2 weeks. Fleck says there is a valuable lesson to be learned from this week's opponent.
Well, this team never quits, and like I said, eventually they're going to take over the personality of the head football coach, whatever that may be. Every team does. Look at Northwestern. When Pat Fitzgerald took over, they lost against New Hampshire, and now look at them. They're a top 15 program, and they play like Pat Fitzgerald played. They have his personality just like him. Eventually, that's going to happen, but like I said, we just got to go out and play our type of style of football. If you look at the 2 games, we did exactly opposite. Offense couldn't get anything going, defense did it. Offense got 500 yards of offense, defense gave up too many points. We got to now start putting it together.
That's a 9 o'clock start Saturday. Tigers play tonight, try and snap a 3-game losing streak with the White Sox.
See you tonight.